Hooday, Bengal fans. This is Jake, and this is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. The guys gave me a minute of time just to say to all of you, thank you so much for all the well wishes. Uh, my grandmother, who I was very close to, passed away this past weekend, actually on Father's Day, and it's been a rough week, but I am glad to be back on the Pulse. She was a huge football fan, and she loved action movies. She was just an incredible woman. I'm gonna miss her dearly. She was like my best friend, to be honest, like a second mom to me. So she loved the show. She loved the Bengals. And I'm glad to be back here talking Bengals with you guys. So thank you again for all the well wishes. I really appreciate it. So Greebones, I know you're watching. This one's for you. I love you. I miss you. Um, I know you're watching over us, and hopefully one day, a long time from now, I'll be able to see you again. So love you, Gree. All right, let's bring on Mon, my buddy Mon. There he is, my guy Eric. Thank you guys for giving me a minute there to let the fans know how much I appreciate them. Mon is going to be joining us here in just a second. He is fallen. Mon's probably fallen asleep. There he is. There's our guy, Mon. Eric, guys, we are back. Glad to be back talking Bengals with you guys. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Got some Bengal news to talk about, guys. Got some actual news to talk about. A lot going on in Bengaldom. But before we do, Mon, how's your week been, man?
Jake, it's been really busy. Just same old working. I'm sorry about your family's loss. She was an amazing lady. I enjoyed interacting with her. She did love her sports, and I just getting ready for football season. It's a little bit of a lull, but there is a lot of Bengal news. Really excited about the Stanley Cup final tonight. What a series that is, and hopefully my team can pull it out. We'll see how that goes, but it's good to be back on the Bengals Pulse. It feels like it's been a month.
It has been a long time. Uh, I know, Mon, you had been around my grandmother quite a bit. She's the only 89-year-old woman that would shoot you a bird and at the same time tell you to bite her ass if she didn't like what you were saying. Honestly, guys, I think more than anything, I'm going to miss after our games on Friday nights. She always loved to critique my play calling, and I'm going to miss that about her. She never missed a game, guys. Never missed one of my games. Never missed one of my kids' games. She was an incredible woman, but
Probably
yeah.
right when she critiqued you. She was probably right.
We would have gotten along with her very well.
Be a three-time state champion if you listen to her.
And you got to be excited, Mon. Your Oilers are somehow down 3-0, coming back. Big game tonight, man. Big game tonight.
La 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 la. Don't want to talk about it. Yeah, you're right. The last time they lost, we were doing the show. So, but the game was actually on at that time, so a little different here.
We'll keep it short.
Okay.
Well, guys, let's get into some Bengal news here. Actually, before we do, we want to talk a little bit about the Jungle Jam coming up. Our good friend of the show, Bengal Jam, is putting on an incredible event July 20th, guys. He has started to release all of the Bengals that are going to be there. It's an impressive list, is it not, Eric?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to jump on to make sure you tell everybody to go get your tickets while you can. They're not going to be there very long, but just scrolling through some of these commitments. I mean, Ken Anderson was one of the early ones that committed, but you got James Brooks, Bob Trumpy, Trenton Irwin, John Thornton, Andre Dawkins, Max Montoya, Zach Taylor. We're going to scroll through Lewis Breeden. I mean, this is every Bengal that you could think of when you think of the Bengals. Von Bell, Ken Riley's family is going to be there. Anthony Munoz, Jeff Blake, TJ Hushmanzada. I mean, the fear of missing out is really big here on this one because it's every guy you ever wanted their autograph and you ever rooted for is growing up and as young adults. Joe Kelly, Marissa Contepelli is going to be there. Geno Stone is going to be there. McPherson's going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe and Jamar end up showing up. There's so many Bengals players going to be here. Talked to Bengals Jim just a little bit ago. There's not a lot of tickets left, but there are some. I'm not going to be able to make up, and I'm really going to be jealous when Mon sends us pictures from hanging out there. It's going to be.
Where's my card?
Else.
Bengal Jim didn't make a card for me.
The fireman, because you got to get a Bengals fireman hat, and then you'll get your own card.
6 foot. I'm not going to tell you my weight. Yeah, I mean, you could make a great Bengal Pulse card, but
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll get you a card, Mon. You might not love
Right.
it, but we'll get you a card.
All right.
Guys, how awesome is that some of the new guys jumping on, and especially a guy like Geno Stone, right? Hasn't played it down for the Cincinnati Bengals yet, and is going out to support Jim is just awesome. Kind of tells you right away the kind of guy we got in Geno Stone. You got to love it. Both of the safeties, Von Bell and Geno, both coming out. 2 huge additions to this Bengals roster, guys. Maybe 2 of the biggest impactful roster additions that we're going to see with this Bengals team in the fall. But like Eric said, guys, go out, get your tickets while there's still some. It's going to be an incredible event. Guys, I don't know if Joey B and Chase are going to be there, guys. They're in Paris modeling, doing. I
don't think Jamar was modeling. That was Joe and Joe and Jefferson.
That was Justin Jefferson. I'm sure Jamar got some kind of modeling gig out of the whole thing. I would love Joe to just talk about that shirt, guys. I've never seen a shirt that's missing the entire back to it. But Joe, listen, Joe's out there doing his thing. You got to give him credit. At first, I was like, "What are they doing in Paris?" And Joe over there modeling now, quarterback with mini, wearing mini hats. What do you guys think about Joe Burrow modeling?
If they tell you get a free trip to Paris, you just have to wear a jacket that has no back. What are you going to do, Jake? And Mon's a model. We know Mon's walking the catwalk. So
Mon's straight from the runway, guys. Listen, this guy is look at the mustache. I mean, good Lord, again. No, listen. I'm getting on a plane to Paris. I'm getting on a plane right away. I don't care if it's a shirt with no front to it. I'm getting on a plane going to Paris.
They'll label that the day that fashion shows died.
They were having a good time. No, those guys were having a blast. Hey, let them have fun, man. This is their time, because in about 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to be a 5-6 month grind. And hey, it's more power to them. More power to them.
Well, let's get into some Bengal news, guys, because there has been some since our last show. The first thing, again, guys, we have thrown out so many different names of guys that the Bengals are going to re-sign first or extend first. And I don't think any of us ever mentioned, we mentioned Mike Hilton. We mentioned Money Mac. We mentioned T. Higgins. But no Ted Karras mentions, and he is the first one to get extended. You guys are telling me off air, the extension contract is 1 year, $6 million. Is that correct?
Roughly, that's some of the information I have heard on Spaces, and I guess it's basically just a continuation of his last year of his contract. They just added a year at the same amount.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't really seen anything about the actual financial part of that, but I do know that he is now extended for the next 2 years. So he will be a Bengal for the next 2 years, a captain. Mon, I know you haven't been really high on him, but maybe this transition of this new Bengals offense, the Bengals are looking here to do the next couple of years, this new offensive line. Maybe that's their thought process is let's let's let Ted run this thing here for the next couple years. I'm happy about this, Mom. What do you think? Are you excited about this, or what are your thoughts on it?
No, I'm fine with it. I mean, listen, Ted Karras is a good football player. I don't think he's ever was ever considered a long term 5, 10 year guy as center. He's a little older. Um, he was better than Trey Hopkins, a big upgrade over that. I think last year the interior offensive line struggled a little bit. Kappa and himself. Volson still has some work to do. He got a little better as the season went on. Karras is okay. He solidifies the interior. He's not an elite center. He's not an upper echelon center in the NFL, but he's good. And you're right. Perfect transition. Maybe Matt Lee develops into a solid center. Maybe they get somebody else next year. But he's good to have. We know we have him for 2 years. We know what we got. We got a good player, and he's good for the community also.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
on top of that, you add his versatility. If something were to happen to Volson, or we need to slide Matt Lee in at center and move Karras over to guard. He played guard for many years. So you could also just be setting up for that transition plan. Karras is center this year. Matt Lee slips in next year, and Karras is playing guard. You have that extra little bit of flexibility now.
So does that mean Kappa? So what does that mean for Kappa, guys? Does that mean that Kappa is not going to be extended, if that's the thought?
No, Kappa has another year. Kappa, the interior offensive line is going to be there. Kappa and Karras are there for 2 more years with the extension. So Volson will be in his fourth. This is Volson's 3rd year. So the interior offensive line will be together for 2 more years.
Yeah, they basically just brought Karras in sync with Kappa. So I mean, I'm not saying that Kappa is going to be out, but it gives them that positional flexibility. Should they want to try Lee out, or something happens with Volson, they can slide him over there, or something happens with Kappa, they can slide him over there. You now have increased your depth because you got someone who can back up and play multiple positions.
Let me ask you: Do you guys think?
Kappa, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, do you guys think the interior offensive line regressed a little bit last year?
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, Kappa did. I mean, Kappa had an off year, and I don't think he would tell you any different. I do think Volson got a little bit better, but you don't grade one player; you grade the whole offensive line. And especially those 3, the guard, center, guard, they're really graded together, because if one of them fails, then it comes onto the other guys. It just collapses back on the quarterback. So I think they regressed because as a unit they regressed.
Right, and I think too, that's kind of what I was going to say, because I know we have Kappa for 2 more years. I don't think that's really the point, though, because I think, Mon, to what you were asking, I think the Bengals might be losing some faith in Kappa. We're starting to see some interesting movement. Again, 2 weeks ago, Trent Brown got a lot of reps at that first team guard there in OTAs when he showed up. So I'm not saying that they're looking to move on from Kappa. I'm just saying maybe after this year, I'm interested to see what the Bengals' thought process is, extending Karras, like you guys said, maybe Trent Brown moving to guard this year. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this offensive line pans out. I think it's actually one of the more interesting battles that we are going to see in camp, is how it all pans out, because obviously Mims had a very good offseason so far. If he's slotted to start at tackle, there's no way Trent Brown's not starting on this offensive line, right? I mean, they would make that move to guard. Would it be the Volson spot?
He's versatile. He's played a lot on the offensive line. I think he's played every spot but center. Brown is the deal with Brown. When he plays well. He's just getting nicked up a lot, and he looked really large in that OTA. I guess he needs to get in a little better shape. But I'll go on a limb and say this: this isn't rocket science. Over the next 2 drafts, the Bengals are going to go heavy on the interior offensive line, because Kappa and Kappa and Karras will have to get replaced. Matt Lee is a decent prospect, but he is a 7th rounder. Volson, I still have high hopes on. He has started every snap the last 2 years. Bengals have invested a lot in him, of time and equity. So I think his future is still promising, but Kappa, you're right. Kappa, his first year for the Bengals was one of the best guards in football. Maybe he was nicked up last year. I don't know. If we could get that Kappa, if we had Kappa in that AFC Championship game, we're going to 2 Super Bowls in a row.
I agree.
I mean, he
I
was
agree.
that good. And, listen, it's the best offensive line we've had in a few years. It really is.
It really is.
Some of the positions are they're solid. They're not upper echelon. They're not elite NFL level, guards or centers. But do we really need that? We just don't need a 2021 offensive line anymore.
Well, if Matt Lee turns out to be a pretty good football player, definitely this is the most depth we've had on the offensive line. With depending on what happens with Mims, depending on what happens with that situation, but Mims, Matt Lee, those guys coming off the bench could look really good for this Bengals offense. Definitely a lot better than what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years with the depth on the offensive line or lack thereof. Let's talk about the other big signing, guys. Again, something that we knew was going to happen, but T. Higgins signs his franchise tender. Again, something we knew that was going to happen. We kind of expected it. But what is interesting about this, guys, is that they're not talking about him signing his franchise tender. They're talking about him signing a 1-year contract. What are your thoughts on this, Mon? Do you think is this some wordplay by the Cincinnati Bengals? Is there something else going on here? Something maybe that they're working on? What are your thoughts on that? Because usually you hear, well, he signed his tender, but that's not what we're hearing. The Bengals made it very clear when they announced it that he had signed a 1-year contract extension. What do you think?
I think it is wordplay. I believe that was the tender that he signed. The one thing about that tender, though, Jake, you listen to all the real reputable Bengal pundits like Paul Dehner, Jay Morrison, and all of them. They didn't think he would sign that tender until late August. Okay, he wasn't going to show up until the third preseason game, maybe the fourth preseason game, the week of that. He signed last week. So guess what? He's going to be in camp from day one. T. Higgins wants to be a Cincinnati Bengal. He wants to end his career here. Is that going to happen? I don't think it will. They have until the 15th of July to solidify that. If they don't, he has to play on that 1-year tender. I'm hoping, something happens where he does end up signing a 3-4 year contract. Everybody that was tagged this year, franchise tagged, has signed an extension except T. Higgins. So I'm holding out hope that it happens. We will see. We will find out in the next 3 weeks. Let's put it that way.
Well, T making some serious money either way. I mean, almost $22 million this year. Obviously, a huge jump from what he was making before. And our guys, he always talks about that. The Bengals could be looking to to franchise him again next year. That I think that's what we don't want, is this to be a continuous franchise tag type of a thing. But that is still in the books as well. But T signs his franchise tender, guys, and now, so to speak, everybody is in the fold, right? I mean, Trent Brown has shown up. T. Higgins has signed his tender, and now the Bengals looking forward to training camp. It's going to be very exciting. This team. It's interesting to hear guys like Ted Karras talk about the seriousness that this team is bringing into the locker room this year. Something that he said, this is the most serious that this team has ever been. I think it starts with Joe Burrow, obviously, guys, but trickling its way down now to the rest of this football team. I think these guys realize how good this roster is going to be and the opportunity in front of them to make a serious Super Bowl run again and win a Super Bowl this year. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Eric, start with you. What are your thoughts on Ted Karras' comments about this locker room?
I think we've been saying that for a while. I mean, you can see how cohesive they are, how much they're friends, but they're also really good colleagues. Like, the team is just the culture in that locker room is just phenomenal. It's bringing people in, they're holding each other accountable. It's why T signed early. T also, just to comment on that, proved who he is as a man. Like everybody knew he has to play on this contract. There's no real reason to hold out. If he wants to play, he's got to sign this tender. That locker room, the fact that they're all friends and they're all respect each other is why T signed and why people want to get in there and work for OTAs and come in earlier and go to retreats. They're vacationing in Paris together because they're inseparable. We would have begged for this back in the 90s and early 2000s to have a team that was this well, liked each other and respected each other. I think it's just a great time to be a Bengals fan and in a Bengals organization because of how well this team has been put together. And you can give credit to Zach, but you got to give credit to the players too. What do you think, Mon?
I agree. Everything you both said. We have mentioned this so many times on the show. The intangibles for this team is off the charts. Their locker room, the chemistry, the leadership. That's what makes the Bengals special. Last year, they won 9 games with their 2 best players basically missing half the season. They played 14 teams that had 10 wins or more. One of the toughest schedules in over 25 years in the NFL. And they found a way to win 9 games. It wasn't enough. They have to get better. I think they will. I'm really excited about this season. Jake, you've been a football coach for years. I don't think football is that complicated. I really don't. When your defense gives up 160 yards rushing a game, average, when your offense is like 30th or 31st in the NFL in rushing, that's going to hurt you. And we know we have a top 2, top 3 quarterback in football. We have top 5 skill position players. We got new additions, exciting young players. We are set. We just have to do a little better in the trenches. We don't have to be top 5, top 10. If we could get up in that middle section, 15, 14, 13, I think it's over. I think that's how talented the Bengals are. And last year, is just weird circumstances caused those trenches to struggle. We control that. We get better there. We'll be all right.
And T. Brookie was saying, guys, in the comments that that Bengals defense, it cost the Bengals quite a few of those losses came on the defense's shoulders. But as poorly as the defense played in some of those games, like that first Baltimore game, like T. Brookie was talking about, that first Baltimore game. The Bengals' rush defense was terrible. Joe Burrow's on one leg, and if it were not for Geno Stone, the Bengals win that football game, who is now obviously a Bengal. So, guys, as good as the roster was last year, and like you said, Mon, perfectly, this team won 9 games without Joe Burrow for 8.5 of those games, which is absolutely insane. This is the hardest schedule that the NFL has seen in the last 30 years. This team's roster this year is even better than last year. And I know Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd not being here, some people have where they are as far as the roster goes, but I know this offensive line is a lot better, and I know the safety position is a hell of a lot better. And I think, again, when you look at a lot of those losses, guys, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but a lot of the losses last year were because of the back end of this defense and the offensive line and the run game, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. If you tell me that they've improved both of those positions immensely, this team with the roster they have, guys, listen, this team is definitely the best team in the AFC North when it comes to roster. And it's right at the top, I think, in the NFL. That's why all of these NFL pundits have the Bengals as being the most likely team to go from worst to first, because this roster is loaded. And if Joe Burrow is healthy, it might be the best roster in football.
I agree. I agree 100%. Listen, this is something I normally don't do, but I have to go into a rant, and I want you guys to have my back and help me out. Aaron just made a comment in there about the Baltimore Ravens being an elite franchise. We're talking about the upcoming season. Baltimore Ravens last year had the only quarterback in the AFC North that started every game. All right. Everybody else had started 7, 8 starters. The Bengals, Browns, and Steelers. He had an elite defense, one of the best in the NFL, one of the best defenses in the NFL, the best wide receivers Lamar Jackson has ever had. All right. Dominant run game. What does he do? He chokes in the playoffs. It takes big time players to win in the playoff. Enjoy the MVP of enjoy that MVP season, man. Enjoy it. I'll make you a Twitter page. It's about winning. It's about winning in big games.
He doesn't understand.
You had the best Raven team ever, probably, with that quarterback. And what did you do? You choked. Aaron, keep on chirping. We got a big time quarterback. You don't.
Yes, that stud quarterback of theirs, Mon, scored 10 points at home against I would say an average Kansas City defense. I would say, especially when you look at that Ravens roster. Listen, I assure you that the Bengals are not concerned at all about the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals have their goals set a lot higher than winning an MVP. Listen, Baltimore loves their regular season. They love their regular season wins and their regular season stats. But the truth of the matter is Lamar Jackson is not a big-time quarterback. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. He had his chance last year. That chance has now ended. Lamar, enjoy the rest of your career being
in Baltimore. Home field advantage.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about. Listen, we're going to see all of this unfold, right? Because a big announcement was the AFC North, the best division in football. I think that's one thing that we can agree with Aaron on. Probably the only thing is the AFC North is the best division in football, and Hard Knocks wants to be there for it. Listen, this is going to be a lot of fun, right? This is going to be a lot of fun. I love the fact of them doing more than one team, and I love them doing an entire division. Listen, the NFL understands who the best division of football is. I think overall, divisionally, they're the most. The AFC North has the most talent as a whole. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. A lot of interesting stories that are going to unravel. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson mockery clown show up in Cleveland. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk of the Ravens' big-time choke. Absolutely horrible. Probably one of the worst chokes in NFL history. And then you got a Steelers team with two mediocre quarterbacks, and those two battling it out while one of them is returning kicks on Madden. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, the big story of the NFL is the return of the Jedi Knight, Joe Burrow, and this Bengals team back to championship form. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this Hard Knocks thing. What do you think, Mon, about the AFC North getting Hard Knocks?
I think it was a no-brainer for them to pick the AFC North. It is the best division in football, and it's not even close. 4 very interesting teams. The Joe Burrow return from his injury is going to be big. It's going to be big with Russell Wilson and Fields being in Pittsburgh. Cleveland has a lot of talent, a great roster. Baltimore being Baltimore, they are Super Bowl champs, but there's a lot of pressure in Baltimore because last year was their year. That was the team that was supposed to win it all, and they've lost a lot of offensive linemen. They do a good job at drafting. It's just 4 very interesting storylines. So I can't wait to see how this happens. HBO, they do an amazing job, NFL Films. The Bengals, I watch Hard Knocks every year, and last year was good TV also. I really enjoyed that one. Can't wait. It's going to be great, and I'm glad the Bengals are going to be part of it again.
Yeah, but I mean, both times have been very interesting, right? They were a lot of fun. I love the Chad Johnson year. What was that? Was that 2009?
It was.
Yeah, 2009. '09, the Chad Johnson year. I mean, that was a great Hard Knocks. Probably one of the best, I think, still of all time. It was so entertaining, so much fun to watch. And now the Bengals are back on Hard Knocks with the rest of the AFC North. Going to be very interesting to see how they maneuver through this Hard Knocks with so many storylines. Are they going to do you know, Eric, are they going to do every week it's going to be covering all 4 teams? Is that how they're going to do it? Or are they going to do every 2 teams a week? Or how are they going to – have you read anything about that?
No, I have not. It's my understanding that each week they're gonna go over all, like, it'll be a little bit from Bengals, a little bit from Ravens, a little bit from Browns, a little bit from the Steelers. From my understanding, though, they're following them from week 1 throughout the whole season, and we just get the first episode in December. So that December 3rd episode might cover the first 4 weeks, and then the 10th might cover the next 4 weeks. I did not watch it last year, but it was a different format last year. I do know that it's going to be, to me, it's got to be a lot better TV than following them in the training camp and the same old stories of watching the guys get cut and all that.
Yeah, I could see them maybe 20 minutes per team per episode. And don't forget, they got to play each other too. So, you know, that you're going to see the coaches preparing for the Browns or whatever. It's going to be good TV. And trust me, they do a really good job. They do an amazing job producing that show. So it's going to be must-see TV.
I'm gonna love watching your guy George Pickens and the clown that he is, just absolutely causing so much problems in that locker room, like he's known to do.
I hope he does.
A lot of clowns,
Well,
right? A lot of
and
clowns that we get to watch.
there's something to be said about that too. You got camera crews following you all season long.
Yeah.
You need a strong team that can handle that. You don't want divas that it's not going to go to their head and they're going to start doing stuff stupid because they want to make a name for themselves because they're on TV. Bengals don't have those guys,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson and some of these other guys. I don't know that they can have that might all go to their head.
What about Jameis Winston? What about that? What about that show of Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson? Oh my goodness gracious!
Captain Chaos. Jameis Winston is Captain Chaos. He led the NFL. I think he had 30 touchdown passes and 30 interceptions a couple years ago. I mean,
yes,
the guy.
He was the only quarterback to ever do that, right? Wasn't that a record?
It was crazy. Hey, let me ask you guys another question. Let's go back. I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about the roster and extensions. You know, the Bengals roster is currently at 87, and they start camp with 90. So they have 3 roster spots.
3 more spots.
So, I mean, I would not be surprised. There's some vets out there that still haven't signed. They might sign a vet minimum or a little higher and come in because the Bengals, I know they really have Dax Hill playing cornerback. We have a lot of young quality talent, but guys, they still don't have the experience. I'm excited about Cam Taylor-Britt, but he's not, he's still developing. He's a young guy. I could see a vet coming in. I really could see a vet corner.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see if that happens. Roshan just talked about the ping pong battles. We hear so much about what goes on in that Bengals locker room. That's going to be awesome to see that. Who did Joe say was it Trent Irwin? I think it's Trent Irwin, right? He's the best one. Or it was Trent Taylor, but I think Trent Irwin was up there too, wasn't he? He was one of the top ones.
I think so. Maybe one of them was one of them. He said just dominated.
Well, Trent Taylor has like a national championship or something in ping pong, so he was clearly.
So he's out.
He's got it.
So he's out. That means
I think Joe said that he could beat him. So I think if you go to that locker room, Joe's going to say he's number one. He might not have been in practice this off season, with the injury, but maybe he went left-handed and improved it. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Again, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to see how this is going to pan itself out. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. Follow Mon on Twitter at @TheFireMon. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens 9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88. As always, follow the Cincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at Cincinnati Pod. And of course, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9, on Instagram, the same without the at Bengals_Pulse9. As always, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. And make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Cincinnati Podcast Network. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. He is Eric. He is Mon. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Who Dey, Bengal fans? We'll see
The
you
comments are great. The comments are killing me. It's a knife fight in the comment section.
Listen, Donna D, that's good stuff, man.
Good day, everyone.
Got the show.
Good day.